Hello, everyone. Welcome to Stevecast. I am Steve. Here with me tonight are the two Matts. We have Matt and Lincoln.
Yo, yo, excited for this one.
And we also have the chooser of tonight's movie, Matt in Memphis, aka Mr. Ronan.
The superior Matt.
False. Lies. Already.
I will not confirm or deny the level of superiority of either Matt. So tonight, obviously, our normal host Rachel is out. Ronan was kind enough to join us, and I don't know if this has been a thing in the past, but it's absolutely going to be a thing going forward. Which is when we have a co-host, we are going to make them pick the movie. And so, Ronan, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've picked and the specific reason as to why you picked it?
Well, first of all, I'm just going to say, I'm going to derail this whole podcast, but where were you on 9/11? No, that's we are recording this on 9/11, so I was like, we need something good and patriotic because I went through the selection and I was looking at stuff. And, you see, for whatever reason, when we do these, my first instinct is, well, okay, what's the weirdest looking shitty horror movie that I can find? And I would see stuff like, okay, here's a Bigfoot movie. Here's some movie about dinosaurs. Here's some other, here's a zombie movie. I'm just picturing lots of boring scenes in the woods or really shitty looking zombie effects or something like that. Bad CGI dinosaurs that look like they belong in Dino Crisis. So, I eventually decided I need something patriotic. I need something pure.
Jesus.
So,
No, keep going.
so I decided.
I'm almost there.
So I decided, what's the best action? So I look in the action movies, and there it is, without scrolling down too much. Invasion USA. Chuck Norris standing there, just proudly defiant, Uzis in each hand. I was like, sold.
With an opened, unbuttoned, denim vest.
I mean, well, obviously he's going on the Dragon Ball principle, which is this shit hasn't gotten real until they're bare chested. So obviously Chuck Norris obeys by the Dragon Ball principle, which is why open bare chest, just the perfect amount of Chuck Norris chest fluff, and so you just can't go wrong with canon. As future previous movies on the Stevecast have shown, when you pick canon, you pick success.
Now, I want you to know that Matt and I were discussing, the Matt and Lincoln were discussing before this, that neither of us are overly familiar with Chuck Norris movies. I have never sat down and watched a Chuck Norris movie from start to finish. I've seen movies where he's got, a cameo, like Expendables 2, but I've never actually watched one of his films. And so I mostly know him from the Chuck Norris memes. And so I Googled best Chuck Norris movies. And I have an article from Screen Rant, and Ronan, you will be disappointed to know that Invasion USA did not crack the top 10 for Chuck Norris movies.
Uh-oh.
The one sentence synopsis on Tubi for this movie is: a patriotic martial arts master comes out of retirement to wage battle against a legion of Soviet mercenaries who have invaded the United States.
Yes. Now, I did see that this was directed by Joe Zito. Joe Zito is actually the director of the best Friday the 13th movie, Part 4.
Incorrect. The best Friday the 13th movie is Part 3, Dream Warriors.
God damn it.
I think I'm going to have to agree with Steve on that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Steve
yeah,
is
that is
right.
the best. That is the best Friday the 13th movie. Yeah, Dream Warriors. So,
Oh.
yeah.
We said
Oh.
Elm Street too.
So yeah, I think that this could end up being pretty good. I'm open-minded. I did not like Steve. I do not know much about Chuck Norris. I remember, I've seen the Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. He's sort of like a big villain in that movie. I've seen that. I've seen Missing in Action, I think, because my grandma was a big Chuck Norris fan, so she always had VHS tapes of Chuck Norris, but I don't remember ever seeing this. So, and because you said it's a canon film, I am definitely interested in watching it now. We should have a good time with it at the very least, hopefully.
I'm a little concerned. This movie is about an hour and 47 minutes. In the past, we've tried to limit Stevecast films to about an hour and a half. So I'm worried that like 4 hours from now, we're just going to be wrecked and ready for it to end.
We could bump up to 20-minute segments if you want.
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Okay,
You
then.
don't mess with success.
So, I mean, what do you guys want to say? I mean, I have a bunch of facts about this movie brought up, but maybe we should save that for the next segment, where I'll start dropping mad facts on all of you.
Facts about this movie, or Chuck
Yeah.
Norris, or the Russian-Ukraine war?
Both, all three, multiple, whatever you want, Steve. I can give it to you. Can we all agree? Fuck Russia.
Yeah, we can all agree to that.
Russia's not
Absolutely.
Okay.
Russia doesn't make up a substantial part of the viewer base, do they?
Well, not now. Here in Outpost Unknown, we are fine with alienating an entire country if they're assholes. So fuck Russia. I forgot to do this on the previous Stevecast, and I'm going to throw it to you, Steve, to recap this. We have a lot of new viewers, a lot of people that are watching these Stevecasts, and as I was going back through and re-editing some of these older ones and posting them, I realized that we very rarely explain what the format of this show is, and so a lot of people might not really get what we're doing here. So, Steve,
Okay.
Why don't you tell them what is the Stevecast? How do we do this?
So we watch the movie in 15-minute increments. We watch them alone. We will pause this call. The three of us will go our separate ways, and on our own, we will watch 15 minutes of Invasion USA. Pause the movie, return, discuss the 15 minutes that we just watched. Lather, rinse, repeat until the movie is over. If you watch some of the Stevecast archives that we've been putting up on the channel recently, those were just 10-minute increments, but for the new, revived, better Stevecast, we bumped that up to 15. And Matt tried to bump us up to 20, but that's not his fucking call.
Very true. Sorry, man. Okay, let's get into this Ronin pick, Invasion USA. You can find this currently on Tubi, so if you're listening to this, feel free to follow along with us, and we will start the first 15 minutes in 5, 4, 3, 2, play.
Look, these two bozos have been holding me for almost an hour while those bastards are scooping me on my story.
Okay, fellas, we'll take it from here. What do you work for, Miss McGuire?
I work for me. What's it to you?
How'd you get here before the police?
I drive faster.
You come to Ronin when you want the good shit. That's right.
Well then, this is quite the opening 15 minutes. Steve, take it away.
Yeah, this movie has been a roller coaster so far, these first 15 minutes. It starts with a group of Cuban migrants. They are adrift in the ocean.
What you mean to say, Steve, is an immigrant caravan?
Ronan, please, I don't want to have to spend 8 hours editing this thing, so let's...
Very problematic. They are Cuban migrants. They are from Cuba. They are trying to make it to the U.S. That is their purpose in the movie. There is nothing controversial about the words that I'm saying right now. That's going to change real shortly. Their boat is dead, so they are just adrift, and they see a U.S. Coast Guard ship coming towards them. And this guy who... I'm just going to call him Krauser, because he's like the evil Nazi bad guy from Puppet Master 3, and that just seems like an evil Russian, German evil name.
He looks like Clint Eastwood, but if Clint Eastwood was wearing like a rubbery mask of himself that was also melted.
So he looks like current Clint Eastwood.
So it's almost like he's wearing a skin suit, one might say.
Yes.
yeah, exactly.
So this obviously like evil guy says, "Welcome to the United States," and all of the migrants are cheering. Yeah, they try to like get on the boat from the United States, and then the Coast Guard just unloads on them.
Wait a minute. Let's back over here. This is not the U.S. Coast Guard. This is a bunch of Russians pretending.
We're
to be the
going
US
to
Coast
get there. You're spoiling it.
You're being very problematic, Steve. You are leading the audience to believe on 9/11 of all days.
I am setting the stage. I am setting the stage in the same way the movie sets it.
Steve, you were real confident about this being the U.S. Coast Guard. I'm just trying to make sure that you were aware this has nothing to do with the U.S. Coast Guard would never do anything like
Right,
this.
because Americans historically have no anger or hostility towards migrants trying to come to the United States.
In several caravans, one could say, that a particular news network will always talk about during an election cycle.
I don't think one boat counts as a caravan.
It does if you watch a certain news network.
Anyways, the not Coast Guard opens fire on this ship of Cubans, and then after all of the Cubans, God, this is brutal. This is right up there with fucking. After all of the Cubans are dead, the not Coast Guard, the evil Russians impersonating the Coast Guard, board the ship. It turns out the Cubans were smuggling coke the entire time because of course they were. So then we get the credits.
Well, this means we need a strong wall.
But wait a minute. Did they know they were smuggling that stuff, or was that just in there? Like were they knowingly trying to smuggle that in? The movie does not make it clear.
Are you just assuming that all Cuban ships have coke on them, and that the not Coast Guard just happened to pick the right one?
No, I'm just saying. I'm saying, did the people on the? Oh, fuck it.
I know what you're saying. No, I don't think the majority of the migrants knew that there was coke on there.
No. This is the 80s. It's at this point, especially in Florida, it is a given that any boat on the water has cocaine in it. It's not even it's not even like a big deal. Like you just go, oh, hello there, sir. I see you're transporting 20 kilos of cocaine. Keep going. Carry on. It was the 80s, for fuck's sake.
Oh my God, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Anyways, after the people on the boat get killed and the Russian Coast Guard U.S. doppelganger people take the cocaine, we cut to this stupid credit sequence of Chuck Norris riding an airboat around for 3 minutes. Then it cuts to like the Coast Guard ship. It just showed up somewhere, and there's cops and the FBI and reporters there. The reporter who we are going to call Rachel from now on. She got there first. She took all the pictures, and inside the boat are a bunch of like actual dead U.S. Coast Guard people. So I was getting to this point, but Matt jumped the gun to the people.
Wait a minute. Why are we calling this reporter Rachel?
I don't know. That was your joke.
It's not a joke. Strong, independent female who doesn't like the police.
And probably is against like Cuban migrants getting slaughtered by the Coast Guard.
We'll also probably bone Chuck Norris at some point, too.
Do you think? I feel like Chuck Norris is like asexual. Like I don't. Have you ever, like in your life, Ronan? Have you ever thought, I wonder what Chuck Norris sex scene would look like? I don't think we're gonna get one.
I've never thought about that with Arnold Schwarzenegger either, Matt. What other sex scenes have you been thinking about, Matt?
Don't fucking worry about it. Anyway, Steve, go on.
The list of like 80s, 90s, 70s action heroes that I routinely think about how do they fuck, that's a short list.
Well, who's on it?
No one that you know of.
Oh, okay. It's
Maybe
Michael Dudikoff, isn't it?
It is. It's Steve James,
it's
obviously.
James. Yes, it's Steve James.
Maybe
Anyways,
Cynthia Rock? I don't know. Maybe.
Rock?
Rock.
Let's talk about the fucking movie. After the stupid Chuck Norris scene, then after the stupid, like, the second boat scene, we have the evil, like, obviously, like, evil Russian Nazi German guy. And he goes to just, like, a random building, and he's about to do a drug deal with Billy fucking Drago.
Yes.
They go back and forth
to Memphis.
Yes, this could absolutely take place in Memphis. I saw an article today where like 4 people were just killed in gun violence today. Real shit going down in Memphis. That place sucks. Burn it.
I support this.
So, evil Russian Nazi guy is doing a drug deal with Billy Drago, and they go back and forth. They're making sure you got the shit.
The shit?
That's what I was thinking about the entire time. You got the shit.
I got the shit.
So they conclude their drug deal, and Billy Drago is trying to be intimidating, so he kind of like walks around his table. By the way, there's a woman who's like got like a little straw, like a coffee stir, and she's snorting coke off the table. And Billy Drago is like,
Because it's the 80s.
Obviously.
As you do in the 80s. I mean, come on.
Billy
You're setting the
Drago
mood.
Billy Drago is trying to intimidate evil guy and like backs him up a little bit, and then he extends his hand. Pleasure doing business with you. And evil Russian guy says, the pleasure's all mine. He slams the chick's head down on the desk, so that, like, the coffee straw jams up into her brain. She's like screaming, and blood's pouring everywhere. And then he shoots Billy Drago in the dick, throws him out the window, kills his bodyguards, and leaves. And after all this, like the little hotel clerk, this little old man goes and steals the cocaine and runs off with it.
Maybe we can almost just end the show now. This is like perfect.
And meanwhile, Chuck Norris is wrestling a fucking alligator.
Yes, Chuck Norris wrestles an alligator. I will say
mention that.
There's some dude, I don't know if it's like a family member or a friend or something like that. They actually make a joke about how the guy is stealing from Social Security.
Tell me something, John. What are you going to do when the Social Security people find out you've been moonlighting?
He found out about my airboat business. Been doing it for 40 years.
Like, Chuck Norris, you're the villain of this movie now.
Imagine being in the 80s and Social Security still existing.
Oh, God. I will say, like, I take back everything I said about Ronan ever, because this is great. This makes our friendship right now, Ronan. I'm glad I met you. I'm glad we're friends.
I mean, this makes up for Ronan picking Doll Factory those several months ago.
Hold on now. You were on record in that very episode.
I mean, it ended up being a good movie, but you know, it failed to meet the algorithm. Oh, I don't have anything else to say about this. I think Chuck Norris is in this segment for about 3 minutes, and 2 minutes and 50 seconds of that is the credits, and I think his name is Matt, and that's what I know. Another fucking Matt. That's what
his name is Matt.
I thought his name was John Eagle at first, but then I realized that was the airboat driver, because I was like, his name is John Eagle? What in the fuck?
That sounds very American. Ronan, you picked this. How are you feeling about the first 15 minutes of your selection here?
I'm feeling great. Yeah, it can only go higher from here. It'd be a damn shame if it plateaued right here.
I'm sad though that Billy Drago's gone. I saw Billy Drago's name pop up in the credits. I was very excited. He was fantastic. He is intimidating. Billy Drago himself. If like I was in a room, rest in peace. He is passed away by now. But if I was in the same room with Billy Drago and he was like walking up on me and he was sucking and he put his finger in the cocaine, started sucking his finger. It's intimidating and gross, and I would not want to be in the same room as Billy Drago, is what I'm saying. He'd be intimidating. And he was good in this, just like he's good in everything, and boom, he's gone. So that would be the one thing that I was like, we're not going to get more Billy Drago, but man, this was a good 15 minutes.
This was a problematic 15 minutes.
I'm glad Rachel was not here for this one, because, I mean, she might have just pieced out and said no more Stevecast.
No, she went through. She could handle this.
I don't know, man. This is. I mean, this opens with, the not U.S. Coast Guard brutally machine gunning an entire boat of Cuban migrants.
That's why America is innocent. We're going to avenge these immigrants that we would have never allowed to come into the country in the first place, Matt. Don't you understand?
Okay, well, let's
fun editing.
Let's start the next 15 minutes in 5, 4, 3, 2, play.
End there when Rostov is, I don't know, eating a hot dog. You hear kind of like a It was like
I
a
think it's Jingle
Christmas
Bells
jingle.
or
Yeah, it
something?
might be Jingle Bells. Anyways, this 15 minutes, not as action-packed as the last 15 minutes, but it wasn't bad either. So it starts with an FBI agent, maybe, question mark, going to Chuck Norris's like ass crack of a house, and he's going to presumably ask Chuck Norris for help. He doesn't knock or anything. He just decides to like let himself in, and so Chuck Norris
That's
gets
what the FBI
Damn
does,
government.
Steve.
You goddamn government.
him in like a chokehold.
Watching these raids on people's homes is just ridiculous.
Have fun editing, Matt.
Show me the warrant. Show me the warrant.
So Chuck Norris gets him in a chokehold and tells him, "I'm not interested." So apparently, like these guys have a history of going to Chuck Norris when they need help. And the FBI guy says Rostov is in the country. So I think the evil Russian guy's name is it Mikhail Rostov? I think that's what we got out of this.
Just
But
call him Putin.
I was
Putin,
calling him Rousdower because his name is similar.
Rousdower.
Yeah, Steve knows what's up.
So Putin is in the country, and Chuck Norris says not interested. He says you should have let me kill him when I had the chance, and then Chuck Norris just tells him to leave. And so it cuts to
Well, he's got a pet armadillo.
He
That's pretty
does.
sweet.
there's a at first I thought it was just an armadillo hanging out in this ass crack of a home, but no, he's actually like feeding the armadillo. The armadillo is a pet, and he's adorable. So this is awesome. But after Chuck Norris says no, I'm not going to help. It cuts to Putin out in front of an ambassador's house, and I don't know who this ambassador is or what country they're the ambassador for, but Putin has a fucking bazooka, and he is.
I want a cut of this movie where somebody just puts Putin's face on Richard Lynch's head, and there's like it's actual Putin in this movie.
So Putin's got the bazooka. He's aiming at the ambassador's house, and Chuck Norris says, "Not today." Puts a gun to his head. He has the chance to kill him, but instead Chuck Norris just kicks Putin in the face, and Putin jumps up in bed. It turns out Putin has recurring nightmares about Chuck Norris. That's just how bad Chuck Norris is.
Yeah,
I liked.
This is good. This is a good setup. Like the bad guy is terrified of Chuck Norris.
He's got a
what's coming.
vulnerability. Yeah, he's got there's a vulnerability to the villain right away, and he's even like, "Hey, man, we got to go fuck this guy up first." Like this is a smart villain, right? He's like, "We got to take Chuck Norris out before we invade the United States. We got to take out the one guy who can stop us first."
Right, yeah.
And I like that. That's an actually cool, kind of clever trick, because in most of these films, you don't see the villain sort of admitting that they're scared of anything or anything like that.
Well, I noticed during the credits that Chuck Norris also got a screenplay credit, so this could just be Chuck Norris going like, "Nah, make me more awesome. Make him afraid of me."
Would you like to hear an interesting fact?
Oh yeah, you had those facts. Drop them.
I do. So Chuck Norris said he got the idea to make the film after reading an article in Reader's Digest that said hundreds of terrorists were running loose in the United States. Quote, I thought, boy, that's scary. He
from
said.
the border.
Or quote, what if some guy on the order of a Khomeini or a Gaddafi mobilized those guys and started sending them out to every major city? I know it's going to happen. And even in this movie, the head terrorist says it's so easy because of the freedom of movement in this country. So we're really accessible to this. The movie is not meant to scare people, but to make us aware of a potential problem. We're trying to make a statement here, he said. This is about the people of the United States of America. Is he an oracle? Was he an oracle for 9/11? Like Chuck Norris was calling this shit out way before.
Well, this just goes into the thing like, Chuck Norris would never let you down. He's not, he would never let these kind of bad things sort of Wait a minute.
What?
So if he was around, and that means he doesn't let bad things. Oh my God, Chuck Norris let 9/11 happen. Chuck Norris did a 9/11. Oh my God.
Chuck Norris allowed 9/11 to happen because he gave the terrorist INVASION U.S.A. the blueprint of what to do and how easy it would be to get on fucking Chuck Norris, man. He is the villain of this piece.
I do not condone or agree with the words coming out of my friend's mouth. Chuck, if you're out there, I don't think you 9/11'd us. I don't think 9/11 was your fault. It would have been nice if you were there to, scare the planes into turning around, but you didn't, and everybody has an off day. Let's talk about the fucking movie. So back to what Matt was saying. Putin's friends are telling Putin, let it go. It's just one man. We got shit to do. And Putin is like, no, like we need to take him out because I've actually met him. He is a badass. Blah blah blah. And Putin's friends say, like, to do this, you can't. We can't operate in secrecy anymore. Like, you have to expose yourself and make it known that you are out there in order to do this, which is completely not true because they just went to his house and tried to kill him. Regardless, Putin is adamant, no, we are taking out Chuck Norris. And so it cuts to Putin and all of his buddies on airboats again.
Epic airboat montage.
How did they know where Chuck Norris lived?
I was going to ask that, but I'm just going to let that go. Somehow they know that Chuck Norris lives out in the swamp, and they are so adept at navigating swamps, they know exactly how to get to where he is. Regardless, they show up, and John Eagle, who's been scamming Social Security for 40 years, finally, that it's caught up with him.
Karma, baby.
Karma for scamming Social Security. The Russians kill John Eagle. They fire a grenade into Chuck Norris's home. It explodes.
It's more than just a grenade, buddy. It's like every bazooka.
It's like
rocket.
Have you ever seen that old movie called Predator? There's a scene in that movie where the guys just kind of unload on a harmless section of jungle and just fucking kill it. They do a very Walmart level version of that to this house.
Yes.
It looked pretty cool, though. Like, I gotta say, it looked cool.
But it just blows Chuck Norris out the window, and they spend another 37 minutes blowing up his house.
I think he jumped out.
Did he? I don't know. He went out a window and then laid there for a while, and the bad guy...
John Eagle warned him, remember? John Eagle's like, hey, Matt! And then promptly got shot. Yeah, I agree with Ronan. I think Chuck Norris jumped out.
All right, well, we were just praising Putin for how smart he was in this movie.
I don't ever praise Putin.
Matt was praising the character that we have identified as Putin for being smart, but here, Chuck Norris jumps out the window, and Putin just says, "No, he's done. We got it. We definitely got him.
We got him.
This is why Putin's an idiot, right? Because Putin, he had the great plan, but he didn't think it through. So it's like, you got to make sure you've killed Chuck Norris. You can't assume he's dead.
He's going to go back to his base. There's going to be a banner behind him that says mission accomplished, and he's going to be telling all of his guys, we got him. It's all good, guys.
I think Chuck Norris's name in this movie is Matt Ukraine. So that's what we're going to go with.
It's Matt Zelensky, Steve.
It's Matt Ukraine. Matt Ukraine against Putin, Russia. And that's the movie. So Matt Ukraine survives this attack. His armadillo thankfully survives as well, though Chuck Norris just leaves him there. I'm guessing the end of the movie is going to be him going back to his bombed out crater of a house and picking up his armadillo friend. Regardless, after surviving this attack, he gets in an airboat and goes and steals John Eagle's truck. I think it was John Eagle's truck. But he steals the truck and drives away. We cut to Putin and his cronies. They're eating hot dogs at the beach and talking about how Americans are so stupid and don't understand what their freedom allows and how
this is true.
Not wrong.
No, this is accurate even today.
So it's weird because he's a diabolically like a genius villain, but he just didn't check to see if Chuck Norris was dead, and that's going to ultimately be Putin's downfall.
Yeah, Putin didn't make sure that Matt Ukraine was actually dead. Gave him a fighting chance.
Yeah. I'm all in on this movie so far. I feel like obviously this 15 minutes was a lot slower.
Yeah,
but you needed
it. Got their dick shot off.
Yeah, you had to have this as the setup, right? We have the backstory. The villain actually scared of Chuck Norris. We know why, and so now I feel like it's going to be balls to the wall. That's what I feel. Fun fact, guys. Until 2007, this was MGM's second highest selling home video title behind Gone with the Wind.
Wow.
What the fuck?
Is that crazy? I'm going to hit you with these all night. Ronan, what did you think of this 15 minutes?
Yeah, like we've already said, this is a slower 15 minutes, but it wasn't bad. So, I'm still very excited for what comes next. So far this has been a great experience. I'm happy to share this with all of you.
Steve, your thoughts on this 15 minutes?
Yeah, I'm into it. I was worried that first 15 minutes wrote a check that the rest of the movie can't cash, but I'm feeling good. I'm confident that this movie, and especially Ukraine here, is not going to let me down.
Okay. Well, let's hope minutes 30 through 45 are just as good. We're going to start those in 5, 4, 3, 2, play.
Turning the people against each other, and even worse, against authority. And our people just don't take it when they're threatened. They stand up and they fight back. So every incident like this breeds 10 more exactly like it. We don't even have the resources to deal with half of them.
Wow. There was all right. So we had like an incredible 15 minutes and kind of a lull, and now I feel like we're back to incredible for all of the wrong reasons. It starts with a couple's like out swimming in the ocean by a beach at night, and a flare goes off, and they ignore the flare. They go back to their beach towel to make out. And then Putin's second in command, who I think is named Nico in this movie, Nico just executes them, just kills the two people on the beach here.
Brutal. Like,
Yeah.
the gun
It turns
stuff
into
in
the
here is
fucking
brutal.
Zodiac. Yeah, he's just there watching them make out, and
Yeah, he's
watching
taking-
their portable TV.
He's got
Takes
kind
the
of like a creepy smirk the whole time. He's getting a lot of enjoyment out of this. But after he kills the two witnesses, like 4 or 5 boats like pull up to the beach, and out comes like hundreds of like people with guns. They run into like a row of trucks that are like parked off to the side, and they head out to like their January 6th rally.
I was about to say, so what you're saying is, we had a trucker convoy.
Yes, there is some
that-
heavy January
Go
6th
and stop
energy in this
stop the
movie right
steal.
now. So we did confirm this is actually not a Christmas movie, but a movie that takes place at Christmas. It cuts to this shot of just like a random town, and people are outside playing in the streets. There's like a teenage couple making out in a car,
While like 5 kids are tossing the pigskin around them, like, yeah, catch.
Suburban USA, guys. Suburban USA. It's
not
Suburban
Invasion
USA.
USA, it's Suburban USA.
yeah, freedom.
It's this very happy, family-friendly neighborhood, and Putin rolls in with a fucking bazooka and blows their fucking houses away.
This sequence was like, they put a lot of effort in this. Those look like real fucking houses that just got destroyed. It's like,
Funny
how
you
much?
say that, sir, because I have a fact to throw at you.
Oh, fun facts.
Fun fact: Richard Lynch, who is playing Putin in this movie, actually blew up a real residential neighborhood during shooting. It was slated.
They knew how to make a fucking movie in the 80s.
It was slated for demolition due to expansion of Hartsfield Airport's runway, so the Atlanta Film Commission gave the Cannon Group permission to blow it up. The area is currently the site of the Georgia International Convention Center in College Park, Georgia. So they literally blew up an entire neighborhood.
They knew how to make fucking movies in the 80s, man, I tell you.
Putin rolls in and blows up a bunch of houses with a bazooka that never needs to be reloaded. Then it cuts to Chuck Norris, and Chuck Norris is just having himself a slice of pizza, like Ray's 24-hour pizza, and the FBI guy who tried to went into his house earlier walks up to him, and Chuck Norris says, "I'll take the assignment, but I work alone." And then he walks away and leaves the FBI agent to pay the pizza bill.
Again, Chuck Norris is the villain of this movie. Why? Because who's paying for that? The U.S. taxpayer is paying for that. He's making the FBI do it. So fuck you, Chuck Norris.
I wouldn't say that too loudly. He might hear you.
Yeah. You better check your fucking tone, man.
So
He
far,
is
he
everywhere.
hasn't done shit in this movie. Right? I mean, he's done nothing.
He
We're 45 minutes in.
survived an attack, and he hasn't actually done anything yet.
Yeah.
it shows them back at the beach the following day, and Rachel with the 80s hair is trying to cover the story. Other FBI agents are there, and they're going to try to track down where these trucks came from to get a lead. Rachel calls over Chuck Norris, but he ignores her, and then it cuts to a party.
A wonderful urban experience.
It's a party. It's a bunch of
freedom party. It's a freedom party.
Freedom
Steve.
party. A freedom party. So anyway, there is a party being held by a group of Hispanic people, and up roll two officers. Matt, I'm saying officers in air quotes here.
Yes.
You can't see the air quotes, but please know that I am making air quotes when I use the word officers here.
Good.
Two officers of the Miami Police Department pull up, shine a spotlight at the party, and one of the guys, gives some shit. Can you just leave us alone? The two of your guys were here last week and gave us shit. And then these two officers, air quotes, officers, pull out guns and just waste this group of people.
Well, clearly, Steve, had they been more polite to the police officers, they wouldn't have had to defend themselves from this verbal onslaught.
And then one of the cops, air quotes, cops, says, "Stop it! He wants witnesses." So this is a false flag operation. The Russians are trying to get people to turn against the cops, which works because they don't kill. They kill like half the people there, and they drive off. And then an actual cop comes up to. In Rachel's world, finish the job. So these other
Rachel was at this party too, wasn't she? Because I remember there was a Rachel-like character.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. Was that Rachel, the 80s hair reporter Rachel?
I think so. I think so, yeah. She was taking pictures.
So Rachel, the reporter in this movie, may or may not be there. So we think it's her. Anyways, so some actual cops come up. And just like the Russians wanted, the survivors of this massacre turn on the cops and start throwing rocks at them. Then we cut to Chuck Norris driving down the street.
Driving down the streets of Memphis.
And people yelling at him, telling him to get the fuck out of here for reasons that I'm entirely... like, he's just driving. He hasn't done
It's
anything.
just a bunch of hookers yelling at him. Don't look at me, fucker!
That's what I'm saying. He's driving down the streets of Memphis. I assure you, he's looking for some guns.
Jesus. Yeah, this is... Wow, man, this is a wild movie.
We're only 30 minutes in.
That article I looked at earlier that talked about the top 10 Chuck Norris movies, if this wasn't on here, which tells me there are 10 more Chuck Norris movies even fucking crazier than this one.
Do we just create Chuck Norris cast? Like a whole show on Chuck Norris 80s action movies?
Yup!
I'm going to throw another fun fact at you. One day during filming, Joseph Zito, who's the director of this movie, was told by a production assistant that Menahem Golan was on the phone of Cannon Group.
Yeah.
Wanted to talk to him. Zito feared the worst, knowing that Golan's frugal ways and history of slashing budgets, but took the call anyway. And to his surprise, Golan said he was delighted with the footage he had seen and gave the production an extra $2 million. That's how good this movie is. They made this guy who's the biggest cheapskate in the world give them more money to do more of this.
I don't know if you've ever seen the Cannon documentary, Electric Boogaloo.
Yes, it's great.
Yeah, but I totally believe that about Menachem and Golem, that they would just randomly call a director, "I'm taking $29 million away from your budget," or whatever. Just slash the budget.
So okay, obviously we're all enjoying this immensely
for all of the wrong reasons.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird because
this is great. This is like they don't make action movies like this anymore. That's why you guys.
It's not allowed, Ronan. It's not allowed to make an action movie like this anymore.
It was a simpler time, Matt.
How do we feel like? Okay, so we're 45 minutes in. Chuck Norris, he's driving down the street. He's got to get involved somehow. How do we see Chuck Norris playing this out?
He's got to run into Rachel. Because Rachel, we think she was. I hope so. The only possible reason for this reporter Rachel to be in this movie so far has to be she witnessed this attack. She's now going to pass that information on to Chuck Norris.
Maybe she's like a Greek chorus, and we, as the audience, are just interpreting everything through her eyes.
Her
So
name is
what about the
Love
things
/
that she
interest.
didn't see?
Okay. Oh,
Should, like, this movie is at least as offensive as the Lost Stevecast episode that will never come out, and yet our experiences with this movie is wildly different compared to
Yes.
what we felt about Ninja Vengeance.
And I wonder what Rachel would say if she were on the show today as to why that might be. I mean, so far I'm digging the hell out of this. Ronan, you got any thoughts on the next 15 minutes? What we're gonna see here?
You mentioned already that we're 45 minutes in. Chuck Norris has yet to do anything outside of jump out a window and wrestle an alligator. So at some point, he's got to get in the fucking game here. He's got to arm up, he's got a gun up, and he's got to start killing some Russian equivalents in this movie.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm looking forward to that. One more fun fact before we go, because I forgot to mention this one when the first segment when we had Mr. Billy Drago on screen. Billy Drago would go on to appear in 2 other Chuck Norris movies: Hero and the Terror from 1988 and Delta Force 2: The Colombian Connection in 1990, along with an episode of Walker, Texas Ranger in 1993. So
You know what other Chuck Norris movie is in Tubi? Delta Force 2.
Okay, so I posted a photo in the chat room of Steve James in the same shot with Chuck Norris in Delta Force. Is the first Delta Force on Tubi?
No, I was looking for that one.
Damn it, we're gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, that was
We
that,
will,
that was
and
one
we
I was
shall.
looking for.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's do the next 15 minutes 45 through 60 of Invasion USA in 5, 4, 3, 2. Let's do it.
If you come back in here, I'm gonna hit you with so many rights, you're gonna beg for a left.
Oh yeah. Thank you for pointing out that I was not yet recording, Steve. As I was saying, this is glorious. I cannot believe I've never seen this movie. This is nuts. Go ahead. Try to recap what we just saw.
I don't even know where to begin. There's some of Putin's men go to a bar where they piss off some guys washing a car, and then they go inside. One of the guys grabs a hooker. They go upstairs. His hand is injured. Chuck Norris stabs him through the hand, so his hand is like impaled and stuck to a dresser. Norris.
Before this, Chuck goes to a different bar to get information from some guy who he saved in South America.
Yeah,
told
but
him to come here.
That was pointless, though. He walks into a bar, assaults the bouncer, and says, "Hey, give me some information." And the other guy says, "Okay," and the movie moves along. That was a completely
Because he
pointless
crushes
scene.
the beer bottle in his bare hands, Steve.
That was pretty cool. I mean, that was a good scene.
I could have lived without that scene. Anyways, when the action actually picks up, Chuck Norris is in this dive bar. He just kicked the hooker out of the room so he could beat the shit out of Putin's guy. And the two guys who were pissed off at Putin's friends came to his aid. It was kind of weird, but Chuck Norris, the first time guy number 1 comes in and Chuck Norris says, "If you come in here, I'm going to hit you with so many rights, you're going to beg for a left."
Also, got to make note that Chuck Norris fucking staples one of these guys to the desk with a knife through the hand.
I did say that. What, do you want me to say it again?
Yeah, no, we're going to move on.
So the second guy comes in. They both come in. Chuck Norris says, "You're irritating me," and just kicks the shit out of this incredible Hulk-looking motherfucker.
Luperigno too.
And then
Chuck Norris gives no fucks.
He gives no fucks. He says, "You're irritating me," and it just kicks them. So then he takes out a hand grenade and he puts it in the good hand of Putin's a friend, and so the guy has a choice to make. Like, he can Chuck Norris tells him, like, if you live through this, tell Putin that I'm coming for him. So I don't know if he expected the guy to, like, one hand is like pinned to the dresser with a knife. Like, is he just supposed to just sit there with the grenade? It seemed like Chuck Norris did not account for the fact that throwing the grenade away is possible, because that's what this guy did. He just tossed the grenade out the window and presumably survived. We cut to more Christmas stuff. It's an 80s mall. There's Christmas stuff all around.
Macaulay
And this,
Culkin is throwing gum at a truck.
yes,
This is one of the best Christmas movies I've ever seen.
Yes.
Even
There's this annoying fucking kid that belongs in a goddamn gulag. He's chewing
He'll be there
gum.
once the Russian occupators take over, Steve.
Occupators. They're occupating the U.S.
Occupation USA.
This fucking annoying kid is chewing a piece of gum, and he keeps, like, there's a car. Remember, like, 80s malls, there would just be cars parked in the middle of the place. There's a pickup truck, and this kid's chewing a piece of gum, and he wants to, like, throw the gum on the truck. And this mall cop is looking at him, looks at the kid, looks away, looks at the kid, looks away, and the mall cop looks away, and the kid throws the piece of gum at the truck. Put this kid in the fucking gulag. Hate him.
That was a nice truck.
Separate from this, one of Putin's guys. There was a scene earlier where Putin and his buddies are hanging out at the beach, and one guy, Nico, hands a package to this tall, lanky motherfucker in a Speedo.
Screech.
And yeah, he does look like Screech. That's his name. Screech.
Yeah.
Screech is carrying a bomb disguised as a Christmas gift into this mall. And so he's trying to find a good place to leave it. He just sets it down somewhere. And this good Samaritan's like, hey, dude, you forgot your package. And they start like a chase, like a foot chase through this mall, where this good Samaritan is trying to be like, yeah, here, take your package back. And Screech is just not having it. He's just running. So finally, like, the bad guys show up, and they just have to, like, shoot the good Samaritan and the mall cops that were after him now. While this is happening, Chuck Norris just runs into the fucking storefront in John Eagle's pickup truck, and he gets out with like 2 fucking Uzis, and there's just a battle in the middle of the mall. And these bad guys have like the worst case of like stormtrooper aim that I've ever seen, because there's like 6 of them with giant machine guns with grenade launchers attached. I saw one bullet hit this truck as Chuck Norris is running around, but they have a gunfight. And so Screech gets into the pickup truck from earlier and drives away. They gets outside, and he grabs a hostage. He grabs this woman by the hair. At the same time, Rachel, the reporter, shows up, and Chuck Norris and Rachel begin chasing Screech.
Wait a minute. You missed a whole sequence there in that mall when Chuck Norris is attached to the side of the truck as they are smashing through everything in that fucking mall. All the kiosks, everything. And I was sitting there watching that, and I was like, this is incredible. Like, you do not see this shit anymore. Just like Ronan said, they do not make movies like this. And I have a fun fact to hit on you guys.
Oh, boy.
Fun fact. So we were talking about that suburban, like, neighborhood that got blown up because it was going to be demolished. Well, this mall was going to be demolished, and so they allowed them to destroy the thing in the movie. And to hit you with one more interesting thing, and maybe this is going to go to a question I'm going to have for you guys after this segment, because this is the first segment that we really saw Chuck Norris sort of
do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So Chuck Norris did all of his own stunts, including the scene where he hangs off the side of the pickup while it's driven through the shopping center kiosks and windows.
Oh.
That was him on the side doing all of his own stunts.
So what I'm learning is all of the Chuck Norris memes were based on fact.
I feel like it. Like, I want to ask.
I think there's some truth to that.
I want to ask you guys both this, because we know of Chuck Norris, but we said at the beginning, it's like we haven't really watched many Chuck Norris movies. So this is kind of at least my first real, sit down and watch a Chuck Norris action movie. Where do you see? Again, this has only been 15 minutes where he's actually done something, but where's your head at where he ranks against some of these action icons of the 80s? Like, are you feeling like, okay, there's something here? Like, how are you feeling about it, his action cred?
I'm still pretty low on Chuck Norris himself because Chuck Norris hasn't done anything. If this movie is indicative of his like filmography as a whole, what I'm getting is the bad guys lead the way in all of his movies, and he just shows up maybe at the end to pick a fight. So I'm still like right now I would put Putin on a higher scale of like action people than Chuck Norris.
Really?
I
Okay.
mean, like, Steve's not wrong because currently, as of this moment, like we're at the hour mark or so, and Chuck has only just now proper entered the storyline. Now we've got like another 40 plus minutes of movie for Chuck to turn that all around and for us to be like, yeah, okay, we were wrong. But as of right now, I'm kind of on Team Steve.
Yeah, ask me that question at the end of the movie and I might have a different response. But I want to get back to the actual final part of this 15 minutes because Matt was just talking about Chuck Norris hanging off the truck. He's the only one that goes for a ride. Screech grabs this woman by the hair, and so there's this car chase where Chuck Norris and Rachel and her like white convertible are chasing Screech and some more
I
of
did not know
Putin's
where you were
men
going to go with
in
that.
I didn't either. It's like, where are you going with that, Steve?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what I said. There's a car chase where it's Chuck Norris and Rachel in the convertible chasing Screech and Putin's friends in a pickup truck. And the whole time, Screech is just hanging on to this woman by the hair, dragging her on the outside of the truck. This car chase has been going on for a couple of minutes, and this chick is just being drug along the entire time.
Crazy. And I'm gonna have to, I know sometimes YouTube gets angry with me when I splice in clips here and there, and so I sort of stopped doing that on the Stevecast. I have to put in some clips from this movie in the Stevecast because it is incredible. Like, I want people to go watch this movie. Like, people must go watch
And
this movie.
according to IMDb, this isn't even in the top 10 of Chuck Norris's stuff.
That is what is making me like I'm sort of taken aback because I'm like, if this is my introduction to Chuck Norris and everyone agrees this is nowhere near as good as anything he's put out, I'm feeling I need to like learn more about Mr. Norris.
The next time Ronan's on, we're gonna have to watch that Lone Wolf McQuade because according to that IMDb Screen Rant article, that is the number one Chuck Norris movie is actually a Bruce Lee movie, so we're not counting that. As far as Chuck Norris-led movies go, Lone Wolf McQuade is the top-rated Chuck Norris movie on IMDb.
All right,
that's got to be and it's on Tubi, so that's the next one we watch next time Ronan is on.
Holy crap!
I wanna add some like a movie, like, you know, talking, it's something more to the movie. I do like how like they're actually setting up background more in the background too, because if you listen to like, you know, radio and TV stuff in the background, like the trucks that, like the boats that came full of like the Russians or whoever these people are. Like they're not just in Florida; they are apparently operating all up and down the East Coast.
Yeah,
because you're seeing like there's world building happening in the background where there's like massive fires setting up in like Georgia and, you know, all these other things.
Ronan, the title of the movie's not Invasion Florida; it's Invasion USA.
Yes, but it's also a cheap '80s movie.
But I know I agree. I appreciate the world building that they're doing. I like that you see little clips of news anchors around the country saying all this stuff is going. It's giving it extreme like scope and grandeur to what the story is trying to say. What I'm
grandeur was not a word I expected to use.
I can't go that far. But yeah,
but how this what leads me like, how is this going to end? Like, how is Chuck Norris going to fix America?
There's still 100 or like 1,000 mercenaries that came off of those boats that he hasn't even run into yet. Maybe I'm hoping that the last 30 minutes of this movie is just one giant battle.
Everyone comes for Chuck. I also want to add that the music, like when the car chase scene started up, you got that classic '80s. It's like yeah, this is the soundtrack I'm talking about. Yeah,
Yeah, soundtrack's awesome in 80s action movies, this one included. One more fact I'll hit you guys with before we move to minutes 60 through 75. We were just talking about story and the world building here. Canon completely removed all story elements and background characters in the editing room in order to concentrate on Chuck Norris and the action. Editor Daniel Lowenthal has stated that Canon's cut made the film heavily episodic and pretty much a collection of explosive action scenes, which makes me wonder, is there a director's cut of this thing out there somewhere with all kinds of extra backstory and some amazing plot stuff? I mean, I need to look at
this. Makes me think of like the story of Jaws, where the editor cut out all the scenes with the shark to make the movie better. I feel
with Jaws, the shark didn't work, so the editor had to just use camera. Like they had the camera become that. This is a different movie. We're talking about different movies now.
This is good. I don't even want to spend any more time talking about it. I want to get into minute 16.
Because we are in the middle of a chase scene.
I know. I want to get back to it. So we're
hanging out of the window by her hair.
Okay, real quick. How does it end for this woman? Does she die, or does Chuck Norris save her?
Chuck Norris is going to save her, 100%.
It's a canon movie. I'm surprised no one has gotten. I'm surprised there hasn't been actual tits in this movie yet. So
there were tits. They were in a strip club.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I must have. I was eating a Reese bar. I must have missed.
Sure you were. Sure you were.
If I'd seen titties, I would have said so.
I think she dies. But we'll see. In 5, 4, 3, 2. Let's go kill some people.
We cannot be distracted from our work here.
It will be done now!
We can't afford to divert our men from their assignments to try and find just one man.
I will do it myself.
No, Mikhail!
All right, folks, we are back. Minutes 60 through 75 of Invasion USA.
How does Chuck know where everything is happening?
Because
informants.
They cut all that stuff out, Ronan, and I'm telling you, all that stuff that Canon chopped out. There's a mythical extended director's cut of this movie out there somewhere.
Which probably isn't as good, because I feel like cutting that out was the right choice for this film.
I have to agree.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to cast judgment on that just yet. I mean, I feel like there's some, Chuck Norris and his brother wrote this movie, and I feel like they were onto something pretty prescient. they predicted things that ended up happening decades later. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt.
It's honestly a bit unsettling to watch this on 9/11, seeing all of those hearings.
Forgotten that's why we were doing this.
Yes. So Steve, bring us up to speed. This 15 minutes. What happened?
Well, the car chase concludes. The lady that was being dragged by her hair actually survives, so I was correct.
I was wrong.
Rachel grabs her and pulls her into Chuck Norris's and hers car. Meanwhile, not Screech, but his buddy is trying to get to pull the pin on a grenade, and as he's pulling the pin, Chuck Norris rams him, which causes him to drop the grenade. Chuck Norris further rams him into a row of cars. He hits the cars. The truck explodes with Screech and his friend inside, so they are dead. It cuts back to a couple of other FBI guys. They're talking about the case. They're talking about how half of law enforcement has called in because they're afraid to go out and be police and law enforcement people anymore. They also just casually mention that John Eagle's truck that was left at the mall was stolen back from Impound, so Chuck Norris just got his truck back off screen. But they say the cops say that the National Guard has been deployed. Well, immediately we find out that the National Guard has also been infiltrated by the Russians because Chuck Norris is driving around. He gets stopped by 4 guys and two military jeeps. And he immediately like sees through their bullshit. When they pull guns on him, he kills them all. He
Murders
questions
Fucking
them.
dual Uzis.
Yeah,
How does that
dual
look?
Uzis.
I also need to mention that, like, Uzis, just about the most inaccurate fucking thing you could possibly wield. Like, unless you're pointing it down a close hallway, which is what the fucking gun was designed to do, super close quarters indoors.
That
It's
just
fucking
amplifies
worthless.
that just amplifies how awesome Chuck Norris is, because
Headshots from the hip.
he uses the worst
Dual-
guns and he
dual
still
wielding.
blows everyone away.
Continue.
So what I was about to say is Ronan was pointing out, or Ronan was asking, like, how does Chuck Norris keep knowing where all this is going down? Chuck Norris questions the guy, and then they just cut out his response. So we assume that Chuck Norris was successful in his torturing of this man to get the location of Putin. But it cuts to the
Kill him,
following
though.
day.
Do you think he killed him after he got the information?
He 100% killed him. There's no way Chuck Norris let that guy live.
No, he's dead as fuck.
Following day, and Rachel, the reporter, is there filming a grocery store owner who's telling this disappointed crowd that, due to supply chain issues, I'm gonna have to ration things out.
Did this come before or after the church?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. We'll get back to the church. I forgot about it. So this is kind of like a broader topic that I wanted to bring up. This movie is doing something that we have all wanted to see in the MCU for a long time. We have been saying the MCU needs to show what's happening to the little guy, the civilians. We need to know what's going on. And so we see supply chain issues at the grocery store. We see the impacts of curfews, and to a lesser extent how religious people don't think the rules apply to them because they all went and gathered anyway. But going back to the church scene, there's a curfew in place, and these people that are going to church say, nope, fuck you, that rule doesn't apply to me. They go to church.
God has no curfew, Steve.
Yes.
Unless God wants a curfew, then
unless he demands it.
Putin's people put a bomb in front of the church, but somehow, even though the church is right across the street, Chuck Norris grabs the bomb, loops around the bad guys, climbs onto the roof of the building they're in front of, and drops the bomb in front of them, and then it blows them up after they fell to blow up the church.
Well, he just connects some wires together, and that's not how that wouldn't work that way. There has to be an electric charge going through the wires.
You're right. I was in the movie until he blew up this magic bomb.
I was completely immersed until right now, Ronan. Thanks, asshole.
No. This means that because there's no way that bomb could have exploded by the wire simply touching. Without an electric charge,
Norris generates his own electric charge.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Chuck Norris, using his own body's electrical current, caused the bomb to explode.
Okay, so let's see. Like, Chuck Norris saves the church. There are supply chain issues at the grocery store. Putin captures the guy that Chuck Norris stabbed in the hand.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And interrogates him. He's like, you met, everyone was at the mall to blow it up except you. You met Matt Ukraine. You talked to him. We know this. And what did he say? And then the informant says, he told you you're going to die. I don't remember what the message was. But then, like Billy Drago, Putin shoots him in the dick a bunch of times. And then Putin, second in command, once again gets angry. Like, let this go. We cannot commit any more resources to fighting Chuck Norris. But Putin says, nope, we're doing it. We're going to make this happen. So
just like real life right now, guys. We're all going to be assassinated by Putin, by the way.
Yes. Norris is an oracle. So all that happened, and now we're at the grocery store, and there's supply chain issues, and Rachel, the reporter, is there, and National Guard people show up, but it's not the National Guard, it's the Russians in disguise. But Chuck Norris rams them, gets into like a big gun battle with them, kills a bunch of people, and then Nico, Putin's second in command, grabs Rachel and uses her as a hostage, and
By
Chuck
the hair.
Norris by there, and Chuck Norris, and he's got a gun to Rachel's head, and Chuck Norris just walks up behind him, points the gun at Nico's own head, and like pulls the trigger somehow with the gun still in Nico's hand. And then Rachel is freaking out. Like, I told you to do something, blah, 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 blah. Chuck Norris goes, "Oh, I better leave before you get mad."
Well, she also tries to punch him, and he just like casually, no effort whatsoever, just kind of raises the hand casually and stops it.
Oh, you stupid son of a bitch! You could have killed me.
You said do something.
Well, do something. Ow, shit!
Sorry.
What's wrong with you?
I better leave before you get mad.
Oh yeah, right. There. See you later, cowboy.
And then she throws a trash can lid like Captain America's shield at him.
And it almost
but
hits him.
misses.
It almost hits him though, because it's like Chuck Norris is walking. He has no idea where that trash can. I mean, if she would have just thrown a little, that would have binged him right in the back of the head. And I love the fact that it does not matter how many times Chuck Norris saves Rachel. She's always like, "Fuck you, cowboy!" Or she's like so pissed off. He's like, "Come on, it's." This movie is incredible. I mean,
Women be crazy sometimes, Matt. Women be crazy.
I wish Rachel was actually here.
I
She
know.
is missing.
She needs to see this movie.
How would she react with all of us and
I
watching
think
this
she
together?
would be horrified.
You
She would be
think-
taking the exact opposite messages that we are getting from this movie.
I think that deep down inside, this movie would tickle that little kid inside of her. She'd be like, "This movie's pretty. It's horrible, but it's pretty great." I think she'd be down with this.
Speaking of kids, the last thing we saw in this segment is parents were putting their children on a school bus to ship them off somewhere where they think it's going to be safe. There's also mention of just a small race war.
Yeah, just a small race war is going on. Here's the thing that I love this movie. I'm just going to say that up front. I love this movie. Anybody listening to this should go watch this on Tubi immediately. But what I will say is there's something that's setting this apart from being like legendary status. If they would have blown up the actual church, I assume that all these kids on the school bus, Chuck Norris is going to save them. They're not going to die. They go right to the edge, but they're not going over the edge to really show how horrible these Russians are. Like,
your fun facts tell me the only reason they didn't blow up is because there wasn't a church scheduled to be demolished in the area.
That's very true. That's very true. But what I'm saying is, like, there's films and television shows where if they just do the really evil act, like you could have had this church sequence earlier on in the film, right? Before Chuck Norris, like the first 45 minutes, before Chuck Norris is doing anything, and shown these Russians blow up an entire church full of people, and that would have been like a really big holy fuck sort of moment. Or in the case with the school bus and all the children, blowing up a school bus with a bunch of children on it.
Well, we're not there. Maybe that's what's going to happen. Like, I'm hoping.
I don't think so.
Hoping and wishing that as soon as I push play, we're going to see a school bus blow up.
No, because Chuck Norris and his brother wrote this. He's got to save. He's got to save him.
Yeah, I have to disagree a little bit with you there, Matt, where you're like, this movie gets just close to doing the horrible thing. It did all the horrible things at the beginning. Those horrible things aren't happening now because, as you kind of alluded to, Chuck has inserted himself into the story.
I don't know. They didn't blow up any churches at the beginning.
They blew up a bunch of residential houses, presumably with people inside,
both full
for
of
Christmas dinner.
Right, but they did a tracking shot after it to show a bunch of people running out of the burning houses.
Not all of them.
Not all of them.
Certainly a
There's
lot
too
of people.
many of them.
They're softening the blow, is what I'm saying. They softened the blow. They didn't go full crazy.
Also,
What
you are
Matt's saying is he wants to see a church get bombed and there be absolutely no fucking survivors.
You are forgetting, sir, that that movie opened up with a boat full of U.S. citizens in air quotes, being fucking 9/11. You're forgetting that. They already started with a horrible scene.
That's true. Okay, I'm moving on. Yeah, this is great. What's awesome about this movie is every time we pause, we're in the middle of fucking high-speed chase, and so the next segment, the next 15-minute segment, is always like, what the hell is going to happen at the end of this high-speed chase? And that's where we are again. So I say we just roll with this. We're let's see, minutes 75 through 90 of it.
Yeah, we got 2 segments left.
Here we go, guys. Let's give this a go in 5, 4, 3, 2. Play.
We're ready to rock and roll here. Get that greasing on the phone.
Can you imagine what it would have been like to see all of these action people together in an Expendable style movie in the 80s when they were?
It would have been done right. When Cannon would have made the movie.
Can you imagine? Like,
it would be incredible.
If I could go back in time, and let's say I was, I had unlimited funds, I would go to Golan and Glavis and I would say, here's $100 million. Get everybody and blow up all the things. Make a movie about it, and that's what I would want. That's what I want.
And it would be incredible. I don't know.
The world is a worse place.
Yes,
because it didn't happen.
I concur. So this preceding 15 minutes. The children survived. I know, disappointing.
It starts off a little like the climax of the bus situation was a letdown. I think. Can we agree that it was a letdown?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a school bus full of children. It's driving down the street, and some of Putin's men drive up beside of it and stick a bomb on its side. And then Chuck Norris and John Eagle's truck drives up, rips the bomb off the bus, gives it back to the bad guys, and they explode. And then it just hard cuts to him like walking through like an abandoned, like blown up amusement park or carnival or something. And he meets, it's this very somber scene. He meets with the guy that originally broke into his dirt shack house and told him, Putin is back in town. You got to get him. And so this, I don't know, guy who knows Chuck Norris from the past says, good job getting Nico. And Nico is Putin's second in command. And Chuck Norris says it didn't help these kids who presumably died off screen at this amusement park bombing. And then Chuck Norris gives the guy a piece of paper with, I guess, like his master plan on it. And the guy says, I can't do this. This is suicidal. This would require all of this cooperation from all these agencies and people and whatnot and blah, blah, blah. But Chuck Norris has a master plan now that we are not yet privy to. So this movie is building up the suspense. What is Chuck Norris going to do? But then it cuts to Chuck Norris is just sitting in a hotel watching like Earth versus the Flying Saucers.
He's like having a good time. He's like smiling, and it's amazing.
He's watching an old 50s sci-fi movie, and the FBI guys like break into the room, and he's got
another unwarranted raid. Oh, gosh,
yeah. They break into his room, and the main FBI guy is like, no one's above the law, blah blah blah. And Chuck Norris, like, I don't know what they're building to, but like very clearly he knew they were coming. Like he put up no resistance whatsoever. You would see the FBI guys kind of like rappelling down the building and going through the hallways, trying to be quiet, but it would cut back to Chuck Norris and his super senses. He would kind of like look around the room, acknowledging that something's about to happen. But he very obviously like surrenders himself to law enforcement here. And then he goes to the police station where he has a quick back and forth with Rachel, the reporter. But then other reporters ask him, hey, is there anything that you want to say? And he's like, yeah, Nico is easy. I'm coming for you. But he's talking like directly to Putin through this television reporter. So that's all Chuck Norris does in this entire segment.
But at this point, Putin has won. Putin has won.
Putin has won 100%.
The whole country is fucked. It's under martial law. Everyone's rights have been taken away.
There's a meeting.
The marketplace
of the
is crashing.
Yeah, the Dow lost 30 points. There's a meeting of governors to discuss like what rights to repeal and what curfews to instate. There are helicopters dropping like flyers talking about a curfew, and then Putin's men like break into, I don't think it was the police station. I think they broke into like an armored car lot, like maybe the armored cars that transport like bank money. I don't know, but they break into this place. They steal a bunch of armored cars, and then Putin's men, like hundreds of them in armored cars and military jeeps, are just driving around the city, blowing shit up now, like completely unchallenged by any force.
So, Matt, where's the fun fact that this whole city was scheduled to be demoed?
Yeah, there is no fun fact for that, but it is pretty. I mean, this movie is just bonkers.
This is like a weird segment because it's like a lot is happening visually, but now I'm trying to think about all of like the plot points, and there really aren't any. This was just bad guys doing shit for no rhyme or reason for about 15 minutes, which is good in its own right, but we're just waiting for the Chuck Norris master plan to go into effect. Like, clearly he wanted to be captured to lure Putin to wherever Chuck Norris is going to be.
Yeah. Well, I think he wanted him captured so he could mock him on television. He knew Putin has this ego, right?
He has to live inside of his mind.
Yes, yeah, he's living in his head rent-free, and now Putin is like, okay, fine. You know, his whole, all of his like underlings have been like, look, you got to calm down here. You know, you got to focus on the mission at hand, which is to overthrow America and make, democracy basically implode. Now that he's actually completed it, and so now he's like, okay, now it's my turn. We're gonna go fuck this guy up. Like, we're going to kill him now. But my question is, how does this end? Like, how, I mean, we have one more segment left. How does Chuck Norris convince all of America that this was a giant, like, plan by the Soviets and that we're all going to sing Kumbaya and be okay at the end of this movie?
The reporter is going to film something.
Yeah, the photos, because she keeps taking photos of everything.
Seriously, like, what were the bad guys? The last little bit of this 15 minutes were the bad guys breaking into some building, and I don't know what building it is. Are they like breaking in to the police department to try to get Chuck Norris?
That's what I think.
Yeah, because they just straight up like blow. Like, you see some cops in there, they're just like, they're just chatting. Oh yeah, how about you? You got the sports section so I can read about the Packers game.
That was when they stole like the armored cars. They took those cars to somewhere else, and now they're breaking into a different place.
That scene was very Terminator-esque, by the way. Like, I imagine just Arnold slamming through, and it was that dude who was in the foreground you saw at the back, was that an actual like living human? Because that person got smacked by a lot of shit right in the face.
And I'm sure Cannon did not care.
No, 80 stuntmen just got roughed up a lot.
Guy was scheduled for death, and so they just put him in the city.
I'm looking at a fun fact here. The body count in this movie is 129. So we've got a very high body count. And another interesting fact, Rachel, the actress who plays Rachel, originally Chuck Norris. Now, back in the day, Whoopi Goldberg was not super well known. And I guess Whoopi Goldberg auditioned, and Chuck Norris was like, we need to put Whoopi Goldberg in the role of this reporter. But he was overruled by the director. And because of that, Chuck Norris vowed to never work with the director Joe Zito ever again, because he did not allow him to cast Whoopi Goldberg.
I fully support Whoopi Goldberg in this role. Like, bring it on. Like, give me that movie.
That would have been awesome. That would have been awesome. So,
like, I think the problem with this last segment that we just did is that, like, up until this point, the movie has not conditioned us to think. And now suddenly the movie expects us to be thinking about what's going on. And it's just jarring, because up until this point, again, it hasn't really done anything to help us think about and keep up with all this shit. So, and now it's like getting deep and informative.
It's all that stuff that's on the cutting room floor. But what I will say is, what I appreciate is, we were talking about, like, we were watching the 45 minutes prior to this, and we're like, man, Chuck Norris he's everywhere. He's just literally saving everybody. He's saving the church. He's saving the kids. But they actually kept a scene in there where Chuck Norris admits, like, look, there's been tons of people getting killed, and I have not been able to save all of them. Look, here's a bunch of kids. They died off screen. We didn't put that scene in the movie, but look, a bunch of kids got blowed up, and I could not save them. I actually appreciated that.
It's Chuck Norris's fault though, because he tells his handler, who he gives his master plan to early on back at Ray's Pizza, that he'll accept the assignment. He'll accept the assignment, but he works alone. Like, he could have had backup and chose not to.
Yep.
And he could have.
You are correct.
And he could have stopped all of this much earlier on in the film, had when his handler came to him and told him, it's like, Putin's back. If Chuck Norris had been like, not for long, puts on his aviator sunglasses and steals that truck and goes out for him. But no, he didn't. He was just sort of like, that's your problem. Like,
so we come full circle from what we said at the beginning. He
Chuck
is the villain
Norris
of the movie.
is the bad guy.
Chuck Norris is the villain of Invasion USA. Okay, guys. Well, I'm excited to dive into the final 15 minutes or so here. Okay, Ronan, how does this end? How do we wrap this all up?
There's got to be a bunch of explosions. Well, maybe not so much explosions, but there's going to be a lot of gunfire. There will be squibs. It's nice to see those popping up. You don't see those anymore. And then Putin's. Okay, let's see. Like, how do you think Putin's going to die? Do you think Putin?
How do you think Putin's going to die?
I think the Russians will poison him. No. I'm like some of the best bets here, because it's 80s. Is he going to be thrown out of the building? Is he going to be exploded inside of the building? Because he can't just be straight up shot. Because that's just not good enough. Do you think he might be hit with a car?
There's got to be an explosion involved. Got to be an explosion. There's so many explosions in this movie. We got to see him explode.
I'm hoping, I'm going to hold out, that he is thrown out of a building.
Well, he could be thrown out of a helicopter. Maybe he gets back in this helicopter and there's a big helicopter fight and Chuck Norris throws him out.
A big helicopter fight. You kick him out of one helicopter and he falls into the blades of another helicopter below.
Yeah.
Maybe. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out. In 5, 4, 3, 2, play.
It's time.
Okay, we are rolling.
Wow, yes.
Clap. Clap, yes.
Wow. All right, so the last 15 minutes of Invasion USA, Putin's forces were absolutely breaking into the police station to get Chuck Norris. But Chuck Norris, this is all part of the plan. Last segment, when Chuck Norris and his law enforcement friend, the law enforcement friend read this master plan and said this is going to require all of this cooperation. The cooperation he was talking about was between Chuck Norris and the police and the military, because when Putin's army enters the police building, the whole thing is abandoned. Meanwhile, on the roof, some sucker is getting into a... and Chuck Norris just casually walks around the corner with a bazooka and pulls him up. So on it, the capture was a setup to lure in Putin and Putin's forces. Putin realizes it's a trap, and so he sends his army back outside, where this whole building has been surrounded by the actual army, the U.S. Army. So now we have two fight scenes going on. Outside the building, it's Putin's army versus the U.S. Army, and inside the building, it's Chuck Norris stalking Putin and the handful of henchmen that stayed with Putin inside the building. And it's fantastic. So we get any lull in the action inside the building, it cuts to outside and two military or the U.S. Army fighting Putin's mercenaries. It cuts back inside and it's Chuck Norris shooting all the bad guys. He finally runs out of ammo for his 2 Uzis and picks up an assault rifle with a grenade launcher attachment. So he hunts Putin around the place. He kills all his enemies. And then they meet face to face, and it is very clear that Putin is no match for Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris is just outright fucking with him for most of this fight. At one point, he kicks Putin over into like a cubicle, and Putin gets up, and Chuck Norris is gone. And so Chuck Norris is now like,
He just straight up
yeah,
pulled the
he's
Batman.
Batmaning around the map, like fucking with Putin and stalking him. So Putin grabs a fucking bazooka and he's walking around the hallways trying to find Chuck Norris, and he's looking through the fucking scope the whole time. Like, how accurate do you need to be with a bazooka? Anyways, he gets to like the end of a hallway in front of a window, and slowly behind, Chuck Norris walks out, and Chuck Norris has his own bazooka, and Chuck Norris says, "It's time." And Putin turns around, but Chuck Norris blasts him with the bazooka, blows what little bits of him are left out the window, and then the movie just fades to black. There's no epilogue. Rachel, the reporter, did nothing. The movie just ends.
She never shows,
never
up,
shows
again.
up again.
Like, she says, "How's it go? How's it going,
I mean,
cowboy?"
as far as I know,
That's
Putin
it.
still won because no one knows that this was a setup.
It's this ending. Well, I'm seeing like they shot this with there's tanks. There's like a dozen fucking tanks in the middle of a city. I don't know where they shot this final thing, but they're actually like shooting shit out of their like tank guns, whatever you call those are. There's bullets flying every fucking where. I mean, like they're shooting in this warehouse, whatever, and you know it's real because there's bullet holes showing up all over every time they fire it. This is nuts. This is absolutely crazy and beautiful and orgasmic in every way, shape, or form. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it.
I want to go back to the explosion.
Yes, yes.
Because so Chuck blows Putin up, which I was thinking, oh, they're going to have like a fight scene, and then Chuck's going to give him a couple of punches, roundhouse kick out the glass, falls or something like that. No, he like, as Steve mentioned in his description, he just blows him up. They blew up a dummy or something like that was human-ish shape, because as he blows out of a window, there are parts.
Yes,
and there's a mannequin head. There's a mannequin head that just kind of topples out of the fireball in slow motion, glorious slow motion. There's like a glove.
That's attention to detail, friend. That is attention to fucking detail. And that's what I come to this movie for, attention to detail. I don't know, Steve, your thoughts? I mean,
this movie's... I have a question before we get into our thoughts. Why exactly did they kill the Cuban migrants at the beginning of the movie? Because that played like... I was still waiting for them to like pay that off, and that never came up.
I think that was part of the thing. Like, remember they were pretending to be the U.S.
But
Coast
then
Guard.
then like the FBI immediately found like the boat full of like dead Coast Guard people. So like that immediately like ended it and went nowhere.
I would imagine it's explained in one of the many deleted scenes.
Yeah, it's like I think they did it to get the coke, because like they're fueling their invasion.
Oh yeah, for
coke.
Billy Drago. Yeah, they had to get the coke to get Billy Drago.
Okay, all right. Now the Cuban massacre makes sense. Good. I'm glad I can say that.
Which would have actually made this a really interesting movie. Like, if you had done this slightly more realistically, because at this point,
like
Pablo
this movie
Escobar
was
is
very
still the king
realistic
of
in all the wrong ways.
Well, at this point, Pablo Escobar would have still been the king of coke, and so like you just took like a couple of his big ass shipments, and he's not going to let that shit just fly. So like you could have an interesting thing where Chuck Norris is going up against the Russians, and then Pablo sends like when it like a bunch of his sicarios up, and they're like unintentionally helping each other out and getting in each other's way. There's I don't know. I'm writing a different movie now.
Yeah, I have a couple notes here for you, fun facts for you guys before we wrap this up. Avenging Force from 1986 was originally written as a sequel to this film, with Chuck Norris returning to the role of Matt Hunter. But he was uninterested and did not want to do it. So the role was rewritten to be younger and was given to rising canon film star Michael Dudikoff.
And Steve James!
So despite sharing the same main character name, the finished film of Avenging Force was no longer truly a sequel or prequel to the earlier film, but it stood on its own.
And also, I think it has Steve James in it.
He's in Avenging Force? Oh, yeah, he is in Avenging Force. So Chuck Norris, again, playing the role of the villain, chose not to be in Avenging Force, so he chose not to be in a movie with Steve James. Poor life decision.
Absolutely.
Poor life
Absolutely.
decision. The other fact I will throw out to you guys is in the German version of this very same movie, the main antagonist's name was Hames. So we're talking about a Putin in the German version. His backstory was edited to make him an American terrorist because Germany was into East and West at the time, and the U.S. had a tense relationship.
Oh, the wall
the
hadn't
Soviet
fallen
Union.
yet.
Yes, the wall hadn't yet fallen. So in the German version of this movie, Putin is actually American. He's an American terrorist against the Soviets. That's incredible.
This movie is I don't know what to expect. I'm afraid to watch other Chuck Norris things in case this was a one-off, but I feel like I have to watch Lone Wolf McQuade the next time we have Ronan on. And
I feel like there's an entire world that we have not yet experienced together, boys, and it is...
I wish that, like, 12, 13-year-old Steve had watched this. Like, I don't know how the whole, like, Chuck Norris zeitgeist passed me by when I was younger.
I don't either. My grandma loved watching these movies. I never watched them with her. I don't know why.
That is a life failing on your part.
It is. I fully admit it. What do you think, Ronan? I mean, I feel like this is almost probably the best thing we've ever watched for the Stevecast.
I was kind of thinking, it's like, this movie was too good for this
show. I
show.
Forgive you for Doll Factory.
It was. I feel like you have ultimate bragging rights of all time as of now, Ronan, because you have forced us to watch perhaps the thing that is the best we've ever done on Stevecast. So kudos to you.
Yeah, I was just looking for those fertile hunting grounds, because usually we do these sort of things. You're just thinking, like, what's a shitty horror movie? Like some really crummy sci-fi. Like there was like someone else was supposed to be on the show. We had a movie picked out, and that's exactly the kind of shit that you're thinking about.
Would have been a terrible
would have been. We're still going to watch that movie 2 weeks from now to placate our next guest host. But yeah, I feel like we need to. We might need to make like Stevecast an 80s action movie centric show.
Yeah, if the views start hitting this like they do American Ninja and all that shit, if we want to go where the views take us, what the viewers are saying.
You have to chase the algorithm.
Chasing the algorithm.
You want the good shit, you come to me. # Ronan was right.
Hey, real quick, I'm gonna buy the Blu-ray of this because I want to know more.
Excellent.
But I want to read you some interesting Blu-ray special features, because that's what I'm mostly interested in getting the Blu-ray for. There's a featurette called Loose Cannons with screenwriter James Bruner. An interesting discussion with Bruner, who did not go to traditional film school, but rather learned the process in the business in the real world, process that led him to penning Invasion USA. He covers the process of working as a writer with Chuck Norris and Cannon Films on Missing in Action, and his involvement with American Ninja. He then goes on to cover Invasion USA in detail, including characters and actors, story details, crafting action scenes, humorous anecdotes from the shoot, and later canon works, and more. Then we have Canon Carnage, the makeup effects of Invasion USA. Greg Nicotero, Tom Savini, and Howard Berger discuss the production's history and explore some of the specifics pertaining to the film's visual effects. They even discuss their own salaries at the time. Are you telling me that fucking Tom Savini and then worked on this movie? I gotta look this up.
It's nice to hear those names, but at the same time, it's like, when I think of them, I'm thinking like graphic kind of horror description, like gore description. In this movie, like,
I know
there are squibs when you get shot, but it's not like arms are blown off and shit like really graphic shit.
You did see that mannequin head at the very end, Ronan.
Yeah. Well, like
that could have been
one...
Tom Savini's hand.
Tom Savini just throwing that out there.
The other interesting bonus feature on here is audio commentary. So Red Shirt Pictures' Michael Felsher and the film's director, Joseph Zito, pieced together a flowing, insightful track in which they explore the production's story and reveal various anecdotes within, not simply rehashing the on-screen action. Note that this extra is not listed with the other supplements, but instead under the setup menu option. So this Blu-ray is going to open a whole new world of insight into this movie for me, and I am here.
The commentary, actually, it's like, okay, that because we mentioned it a lot while we were talking about this. There is a backstory. There is a world. There's world building happening in this movie. Like, it's not just the terrible events happening, around. They're happening all over the country, and they're only slightly alluded to in the background. So, yeah, I'm very interested. I'd be like, yeah, it sounds like an absolute win.
Yes. And I'm
imagine
page.
Invasion USA, but with a plot.
This is fucking crazy, and this is a gem. Everyone should.
This movie went hard from the beginning, and it never fucking let up.
Yeah, and if you think about it, that is the calling card of Mr. Savini. He goes hard in all of his movies. Only this wasn't, like you said, Ron. It wasn't like putting hooks in people's necks and shit like that. It was just shooting the shit out of them. And he that's how he learned all of his special effects stuff from Vietnam and being in the Vietnam War and seeing what this actually looks like. So, I mean, I gotta get this so I can see all these things.
I support this.
I want to know more. I mean, I love this movie. I'm gonna give this movie like a 10 out of 10. I fucking loved it. I absolutely loved it.
I don't know what else to say. Ronan, next time you're on, we're watching Lone Wolf McQuade. According to IMDb, that is the highest rated Chuck Norris starring movie.
Is it in fact in Tubi?
It is.
I can't remember.
Already way ahead. It was recommended.
It's actually recommended. Yeah. I will also point out, guys, one final fact for you. This movie was movie 1 of a 6-film Cannon Globes contract that Chuck Norris had. So there are 5, I don't know what Lone Wolf McQuade, I don't know if that's a Cannon film or not, but there are 5 additional Cannon movies starring Chuck Norris.
I don't know if I'm looking at Lone Wolf McQuade. That one is 83. Invasion USA is 85. So if this is was the
Lone
first
Wolf
of his
McQuade
contract,
is a western, according to with David Carradine.
But I can see trucks in the background, so I guess it's a
I don't know. It says Lone Wolf McQuade is a 1983 American Western film directed by Steve Carver and starring Chuck Norris, David Carradine, and some other people I don't recognize.
I'm still down for this. I think it's like a modern day.
Ebert gave it 3.5 stars.
Oh well, I mean, he only gives that to quality.
Well, folks, we have nothing else to say. This was incredible. Thank you, Ronan. You've validated everything about our friendship with selecting this movie. And we'll be back next week with Killer Rack. Yay. So stay tuned for that, ladies and gentlemen. But with that, thank you once again for listening to the Real Stevecast. And, I'll cut that part.
No.